Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be going over section 7.3 for social and prosocial development. My name is Elise and I'll be your teacher this evening. Some important points. The big takeaway from this section is that in early life, some signs of moral reasoning and prosocial behavior take place. However, these compasses continue to develop and evolve throughout the childhood and adolescence, and continuing on through middle school, high school, and adulthood of these children. We develop an understanding of what is right and what is wrong, and our moral beliefs will change. Some key terms that we're going to be learning about in this chapter are prosocial behavior, behavior directed towards promoting the well-being of one or more people rather than one's own well-being. The next term we have is morality. This is one's general standards regarding right and wrong behaviors. Empathy is the experience of sharing the same feelings as someone in an unfortunate circumstance. The next term we have is sympathy, the feeling of sorrow for one other person's life, as well as concern for that person's well-being. Pre-conventional morality is our next term, and it means the lack of internalized standards about what is right and what is wrong. Conventional morality is the uncritical acceptance of society's conventions regarding right and wrong behaviors. When children start adapting eternal standards of behavior, starting at 1 year old, children start to value prosocial behavior over antisocial behavior. This means that they prefer to be around people rather than secluded by themselves. At around 3 years, the children have developed an understanding of behaviors that cause physical and mental harm in any way, and that physical and mental abuse are wrong. They start to understand what is right and what is wrong. And then by 4 years old, children understand what is right and what is wrong despite what adults say. So this means that whether a child is told to hit another child by an adult, internally, they will know that it is wrong despite what adults tell them. Children distinguishing between moral and conventional transgressions. Culture has a huge effect on children's moral and conventional transgressions. For moral transgressions, however, they are pretty much the same throughout all cultures, meaning that most cultures believe that causing harm or damage to another person or violating human rights is completely wrong. This is something that is pretty much consistent throughout all cultures, that you shouldn't harm other people and that you should give everybody the rights that you have. And then with conventional transgressions that are specific to culture, this is an example of how people should and shouldn't act, how they vary in different cultures, is that, so for beaches here, it is considerate to be clothed, not be nude, but however in beaches in Europe, it is seen as okay to be nude on beaches, the same way as the example from the textbook said with burping. In some cultures, burping is seen as offensive and rude and very low class to do in public, but in other cultures it's seen as a compliment to the chef. Children's capacity to respond to others. So at around 2 to 3 years old, children develop guilt and shame. This is important for their moral development because they understand and they feel when they do things that are wrong, it affects them in a negative way, and then they're able to learn from it. During this time, emotions of empathy and sympathy also develop. Being able to be considerate of other people's feelings and being able to put yourself in their shoes and feel sad for that person. Empathy, again, is being able to have the same feelings as somebody without your wrongdoing. And then sympathy is when you're not only able to feel bad, but you're able to have concern about the person's well-being. So let's say I'm babysitting one of my children that is around 2 years old. If his sister, who is 4, falls down and starts crying, he will go over and check on her to make sure that she is okay, and he wants to make sure that she is not hurt. He won't start crying, but he will feel sympathy towards her because he feels bad and he wants to make sure that she's okay. And then here we see the picture. Sympathy, I care about your suffering. Empathy, I feel your sympathy, your suffering. That is the big difference, is that with empathy, you're feeling the same emotions as that person. Here we have table 7.2, the 3 levels and 6 strategies of moral reasoning in Kohlberg's theory of moral development. In level 1, we have pre-conventional morality. This is seen in most preschoolers as well as elementary school students, some junior high students, and few high school students. In stage 1, punishment, avoidance, and obedience. This is when children make decisions based on whether or not they think they're going to get caught by the teacher, and they only obey the rules if somebody more powerful puts them in place. Stage 2 is the exchange of favors. Now, this is the I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, and the help me, help you, help me, help you. This is when you will help other people only to help yourself. And this is when you define what is right and what's wrong based on consequences to themselves. So if I'm going to get in trouble, that's how I'm going to determine what is right and what is wrong. Level 2, conventional morality. This is seen in few elementary school students, some junior high students, and many high school students. Stage 4 usually doesn't appear until before high school. Stage 3, the good boy and good girl. This is when students are going to do things based on getting appraisal, whether that be from a teacher or from another peer. Now, what this means is that they're going to be most concerned with keeping that person's trust. They're going to seek their approval, and they're going to want to do things based on what they think the outcome is going to be with that person. Stage 4, law and order. This is the one that usually doesn't appear until before high school. People start looking at society as whole for guidelines about what is right and what is wrong. They know that rules are necessary for keeping society running smoothly, and they believe that it's their duty to obey them. However, they perceive rules to be inflexible. The rules are law. They are seen as they can't be changed at this point, and what they know to be the law, that is the word. Level 3, post-conventional morality. This is rarely seen before college, and stage 6 is even extremely rare in adults. Stage 5 is social contract. People recognize that rules represent agreements among individuals about appropriate behavior. Rules are seen as useful mechanisms that maintain the social order and protect individual rights, rather than an absolute dictates that must be obeyed because they are the law. People recognize the flexibility of rules, and rules that no longer serve society's best interests should be changed. This is when you start coming into your own skin and you realize that some of the rules and morals that we have set in society aren't always right, such as gay marriage. For a long time, people thought that being gay or gay marriage was socially wrong. And now it has been seen as a whole that that preconceived notion isn't to be decided by us, and that it should be free to let people make their own decisions when it comes to marriage. And then stage 6, we have the universal ethical principle. Stage 6 is a hypothetical ideal stage that few people ever reach. This stage is adhered for a few abstract universal individuals. Now, what this means is that they transcend specific norms and rules. They answer to stronger inner conscience and willingness to disobey the laws and violate their own ethical principles, such as Rosa Parks on the bus. It takes a certain type of person to go against what is normal. not everybody does it. Not everybody has the will to stand up against what other people believe. Now, there are some weaknesses in Kohlberg's chart and his theory of moral development. One, the underestimated age for the right and wrong. He says that it takes place in preschoolers and most elementary school students. We know this not to be true because we have seen it take place in children as young as 2 years old, know the difference from right and what's wrong. Secondly, morals change over time. In his chart, they are consistent. Our morals develop as soon as we get in arguments with people. Our abilities to see what is right and what is wrong change. 3, the focus on showing compassion. People's morale have a big effect on what they believe to be right and wrong based on the empathy and the sympathy that they feel for others. And then 5, overlooked motives for social benefits and other situational factors that are to be considered with children. Cultural reasons and cultural beliefs have a big effect on what children believe to be right and what's wrong, and that socially what children go through affects them in the long run. What arguments they have, who they know, who they're friends with, who their teachers are, they all affect what children believe to be morally right. Challenges to current moral perspectives can promote advanced reasoning. Kohlberg used the concept of disequilibrium to further explain how children develop more advanced reasoning. Now, by this, the experience of moral dilemmas and arguments, over time, people will see their flaws in their judgments and they will change their own perspective. What this means is that by getting in arguments with other people and having those doors open, you're able to see that there are flaws in your own morality, and that will cause you to start to change what you believe to be correct. A child's morals don't simply come from the parents. The morals are developed based on the child's personal beliefs. Just because your parents believe that X, Y, and Z is correct doesn't mean that automatically those are going to be your beliefs. Yes, you might adopt some of theirs, but over time, you're going to change what your morals are, and they're not going to be exactly how your parents are. Cognition, affect, and motivation all influence moral and prosocial behavior. As children get older, they will most likely behave more morally and prosocially because of having more advanced moral reasoning. What this means is that children are not going to make bad choices as often, most likely because of their moral ability to reason. As children are also using guilt, shame, and empathy with their actions. So what this means is that they're incorporating when something happens, when they do something bad, that they feel guilty, they feel shame. When things happen to other people, they feel that empathy and they feel that sympathy for them. They are able to relate to other people, and they are able to be considerate of their feelings. It has been found out that children use prosocial behavior not only to make choices, but to help others make choices that also benefit their own goals. They also have a sense of their own well-being. This is what we talked about earlier with the help me, help you, and that second stage where children will make choices with the idea in mind that it is also going to benefit them and their well-being. Moral values become an important part of young people's sense of self. Everything that we have talked about in this chapter ties it all together. One's morality and sense of self are interconnected to create that person's identity. A person's personality, sense of self, peer relations, social cognition, moral and prosocial development are all key in a person's identity. What they go through in their lives, what their parents believe in, what they have gone through, the arguments, the people they hang out with, all of it ties together to make that person's identity. As you can see in the picture, the stories that they have, the attitudes, the abilities, the behavior, the beliefs that the person have are all a part of that person's identity. Thank you for listening to chapter 7.3, and I hope you were able to learn something.